Okay, hey everyone, how are you? This is our fourth lesson this week, and I'm going to continue with Olympus. Okay, now Olympus is one of the most important coastal cities of ancient Lycia and has been the subject for mythology in the course of the history. Due to the availability of its location, it had been the common shelter of the pirates. And now Olympus is known in all of the world with its historical values, a beautiful coast of 3,200 square meters, endemic plants, caretas, chimera, and magnificent nature suitable for all sports and famous tree houses used for accommodation. The certain date of foundation of Olympus is not known, but its name can be seen in Lycia Confederation coins published in 6878 BC. It's known that Olympus had 3 votes in Lycia Confederation, which was an economical union. In 78 BC, the Roman general Servilius has cleaned Olympus from the pirates and added this place to the lands of Rome. And during a Roman era, the city became famous with the blacksmith god Hephaestus in Çıralı, where the natural fire is burning. During the Crusades, the Olympus was invaded by the Knights of Venice, Genoese, and Rhodes, and was conquered by Fatih the Conqueror in the 15th century, added to the lands of Ottoman Empire. After Middle Age, there had been no Turkish settlers until the recent times, and it was used as a winter place by the nomads. All areas of Olympus is accepted as archaeological and natural protection area in Turkey, and Akçay River is pouring inside the city of Olympus. The high hill, which can be seen from the beach and located on the graveyard, is the Acropolis of the Olympus. The remnants on the hill belong to the walls of a castle built in the Middle Age. If you look above this hill, you can see the beautiful view of the river, as if you were in Venice. In the ancient times, the ships used to pass from the channel on the river. The walls surround the river were made with polygonal method, and both coasts were connected with a bridge remnants of which are still encountered today. The window structures seen on the coast are the remnants of a Turkish bath. You can pass to this coast of Olympus by stepping on large stones. Here you can see the Olympus Theater covered with bushes. The walled paradoxes of the theater, as well as the ornaments and embellished doors, demonstrates a typical Roman example. Between the theater and the sea, you can see Byzantine basilica and the remnants of the bath. Settling and structuring near Olympus are forbidden, as it is under protection. Accommodation can only be made in tree houses, but there are also several hotels around this place, not in, but around. This is the most important visiting point of travelers. And besides, Beydağları Olympus National Park is an ideal region for mountaineers. You can arrive at the Olympus beach after 1.5 kilometer walk from the ruin site. Yes, Olympus is a nice place, but I don't have much more to say about it. And now I would like to talk about Termassos. Well, Termassos is a grand city. It's a beautiful place on top of a mountain. A visit to the ruins of this ancient city of Termassos is undoubtedly an unforgettable experience. Completely different from visiting ancient cities located along the Mediterranean coast. As I said before, it's on top of a mountain. First of all, to get to Termessos, you need to travel to the altitude of 1,000 meters, deep into the Taurus mountain range. The difficulties of this journey are quickly compensated by the vista seen from the ancient theater, which is considered to be most ideally illustrated of all the ancient buildings of its kind in Turkey. And in truth, the view from this ancient theater is just magnificent. And secondly, this eagle's nest, Kartal Yuvası, as Termessos was called by Alexander the Great, lies in the national park, where the remains of ancient buildings are nestled among pine forest, and a number of rare plant species grow undisturbed by mass tourism. And finally, Termessos is shrouded in legends and has been the object of fascination and studies conducted by many travelers and scholars. The uniqueness of this place has not gone unnoticed by international organizations. Güllük Mountain National Park and the ruins of Termessos are among the candidates for the UNESCO World Heritage List. When we look at the history of Termessos, we see that Termessos appeared in the literature for the first time on the pages of the Iliad. Homer mentions that Bellerophon, the Greek hero who rode a winged horse Pegasus and became known as Chimera Killer, was commissioned by the king of Lycia to conquer Termessos. He managed to force the residents Termessos to surrender by flying over the mountains on Pegasus and throwing stones at the rebels. But it's just a story, and apart from this story, little is known about the ancient history of Termessos. Most probably, the city was founded by a Pisidic tribe, the local people related to the residents of Isauria and Cilicia. The inhabitants of Termessos called themselves Solimi, an Anatolian god who in later times became identified with Zeus. This is evidenced by the coins minted in Termessos with the image of the deity means God, you know, with the image of Zeus and his name. The first historical mention of Termessos dates back to 334 BC. In this time, Alexander the Great arrived to the area with a plan to capture Termessos. Sorry. However, his attempts failed, and the eagle's nest turned out to be a more difficult problem than the Gordian knot. The Macedonian king lost in Termessos a lot of time, but deep gorges and steep mountain slopes provided sufficient defenses for Termessos inhabitants. And finally, Alexander decided to leave Termessos alone. This way, Termessos became one of the only two cities of Asia Minor, the other being Sicyon, that the Macedonian army and Alexander the Great was not been able to conquer. Well, in the Hellenistic period, Termessos entered the era of great prosperity, but it was implicated in the conflicts between the heirs of Alexander the Great. One of the generals of the Macedonian king, Antigonos, after the death of Alexander, proclaimed himself the ruler of Asia Minor. Then he declared a war against the competitor for the title, Alcetas, who at that time was based in Pisidia. Alcetas and his companions fled before the huge army of Antigonos to Termessos, and the city residents vowed to help him. However, when Antigonos laid siege to the city, the council of elders decided to betray and hand Alcetas over to Antigonos in order to protect Termessos and quickly sent messengers to Antigonus with the news. However, younger residents of Termessos opposed to this perfidy and left the city as a sign of protest against it. Alcetus chose death over falling into the hands of the enemy. He committed suicide, and his body was handed over to Antigonus. And the Antigonus' army went on their way and left Termessos alone. After that, in the period of Roman domination in Asia Minor, Termessos retained considerable autonomy as a friend and ally of Rome. The residents of the city could set their own laws. They were also guaranteed the freedom and the right to mint their own coins. However, the end to this prosperity and existence of Termessos came with an earthquake that destroyed the aqueduct supplying drinking water to the city. This aqueduct was supplied the water from the bottom of the mountain to the top of the mountain. So when it was destroyed, it was the end of the city. The exact year of this event has not been determined, although it is known that even in the period of early Christianity, Termessos was the seat of the bishop. In the 5th century AD, the city was already completely deserted, and from that time until its discovery by the modern travelers, it fell into oblivion. Well, if you go to Termessos, you can see that right at the entrance to the Güllük Mountain National Park, there is a small building which houses the pompously called museum, the Museum of Flora and Fauna. It is in fact a very modest exhibition displaying the animals living in the surrounding forests and the plants growing in them. From the entrance to the national park, a narrow and winding road leads up to the ruins of Termessos. This route was the main road leading to the city also in the ancient times. The remains of this so-called royal road are visible along the access road, and the surviving fragments of ancient road are dated back to the 2nd century AD and lead to the center of Termessos. After 8.5 kilometers, you reach the parking lot situated just before the entrance to the ancient city. Right next to it, there are the remains of the temple of Artemis and Hadrian. The temple itself was built in the Ionic order. Just next to the top gate of the city stands the building of an impressive size, which once served the dual function of a bath and a gymnasium together. Some parts of the building are hidden underground, thus you can only see its northeastern part. Behind the upper rampart starts a relatively flat area, which used to be the center of political and economic activities in Termessos. Unfortunately, today, most of the buildings that once stood here are completely destroyed or severely damaged. If you look carefully, you can spot a section of the old colonnaded street and some fragments of the sewer system. If you follow the signs leading to the narrow path through the forest to the southeast, it will lead you to the upper agora of Termessos. This spacious square was once surrounded on 3 sides by colonnades. The most important buildings that are located in the immediate vicinity of the agora are a theater, a Bluterion, and the temple of Ptolemaion Zeus. The best reason to visit Termessos is, undoubtedly, without a doubt, this magnificent ancient theater, located to the sea to the east from the agora. This building, surrounded by mountain peaks of the Taurus range, guarantees a stunning view from the surrounding countryside. The theater performances in Termessos must have been extraordinary, if only for the stunning location of this structure. This theater was built in the Hellenistic period in accordance with the best Greek practice. It is made of hewn stone, and its auditorium, which could seat 4,200 people. And imagine yourself sitting on top of the mountain and on top of the theater and looking down and see everything. This coast, the other mountains, the view is just magnificent. And I strongly suggest you to go and visit it if you haven't done so already. Okay? Now, this fourth lesson is now finished, and I'm going to see you in our fifth lesson, fifth video. And until then, I'll see you. Take good care, okay? Bye-bye.